The Battle of Ofakim, which took place from October 7th to 9th, 2023, was a component of a large-scale offensive launched from the Gaza Strip into Israeli territory. It marked the furthest point of penetration by Palestinian armed groups into an urban area during the October 7th attack. The events in the town of Ofakim, from the initial infiltration to the extended fighting, offer a detailed case study of asymmetrical urban combat. A close analysis of the battle's timeline clarifies its significance within the broader conflict, extending beyond the immediate outcome on the ground. On the morning of October 7, 2023, Palestinian armed groups, led by Hamas, initiated a surprise multi-pronged offensive against southern Israel. The operation began with a massive barrage of rockets, which provided cover for ground forces to breach the border fence and move into Israeli territory. Ofakim, a town with a population of approximately 30,000 to 40,000, is situated about 20 to 25 kilometers from the Gaza border. Its urban landscape consists of a mix of low-rise, residential buildings, and suburban-style settlements. Due to its distance from the immediate border area, the town did not have a significant standing military presence. Its security apparatus relied primarily on the local police force and armed civilians. At approximately 6:45 a.m. on October 7th, a unit of about 15 to 22 fighters from Hamas's Nukba forces entered Ofakim. Traveling in 2 pickup trucks, they accessed the town via Highway 241, armed with assault rifles, grenades, rocket-propelled grenades, and substantial ammunition. Their arrival signaled the beginning of a prolonged and brutal confrontation that would unfold over the next 3 days within the town's residential streets. The Battle of Ofakim began on the morning of October 7th and concluded on October 9th, the most intense fighting occurring on the first day. The initial phase of the assault was characterized by rapid decentralized attacks designed to sow chaos and inflict maximum casualties. Around 7 a.m., the armed group split into smaller cells and began advancing into the Misher Hagafon and Hagafon residential neighborhoods. One of their first acts was to open fire on an ambulance, killing the driver. The gunmen then moved through the streets, including Hagoran, Kramim, and Hadamar, attacking civilians they encountered. The sudden and violent nature of the attack resulted in a rapid accumulation of casualties. Upon learning of the infiltration, the mayor of Ofakim placed an urgent call to the Minister of Defense to request military reinforcements. However, the Israeli Defense Forces (IDF) were simultaneously responding to multiple infiltration points and breaches along the Gaza border, which led to a significant delay in the arrival of substantial military units to Ofakim. This delay meant that the initial defense of the town fell to those who were already present: local police officers, soldiers on leave, and civilians who owned personal firearms. The main fighting phase commenced around 7:15 a.m. as the first organized resistance materialized. Local police, off-duty soldiers, and armed civilians quickly formed ad hoc defense units to confront the gunmen. On Beit Wagon Street, a police officer, alongside civilians and military cadets, engaged the attackers, successfully holding their ground but suffering casualties in the process. Other police units engaged in direct firefights across the town. The station commander, Chief Superintendent Jair Davidoff, was killed in combat along with 3 of his colleagues as they confronted the militants. Civilians also played a direct role in the fighting. Chana, a security guard at an Israeli bank, and Almog Cohen, a member of parliament, used their personal weapons to engage the gunmen, neutralizing several of them during the chaotic street battles. The fighting was defined by close-quarters combat within the narrow confines of the residential area. The sounds of gunfire and grenade explosions echoed through the neighborhoods for hours as small, intense skirmishes erupted street by street and house by house. The militants attempted to seize residential homes to establish fortified positions, leading to several hostage situations. One of the most notable incidents was the seizure of the home of Rachel and David Edry. The couple was held captive for nearly 20 hours. During the ordeal, Rachel Edry engaged her captors in conversation, offering them food and drink in a successful effort to de-escalate the situation and buy time for security forces to organize a rescue operation. This protracted standoff highlighted the intimate and terrifying nature of the urban battle, where the front line was not a distant field, but the living rooms of ordinary homes. The final phase of the battle began on the evening of October 7th and continued through October 8th and 9th. Specialized Israeli units began to arrive in force. The Yamam, the police's elite counter-terrorism task force, along with IDF units, systematically moved through the town to clear the remaining pockets of resistance and conduct hostage rescue operations. The operation to rescue the Edrei couple was successfully executed, with the gunmen inside their home being eliminated. Over the next 2 days, security forces continued to sweep the town, neutralizing the last of the militants. By October 9th, all of the gunmen who had entered Ofakim had been killed. The battle resulted in significant casualties. Approximately 47 to 52 Israeli civilians and police officers were killed, and many more were wounded. All 15 to 22 of the Palestinian militants were also killed. An analysis of the events reveals a clear example of asymmetrical urban warfare. The infiltrating group leveraged the element of surprise and light infantry tactics to create initial shock and disarray. However, they lacked the logistical support for a sustained occupation and were ultimately contained and neutralized by the rapid, albeit costly, response of local forces who were able to use their familiarity with the urban terrain to their advantage. The significance of the Battle of Ofakim extends beyond the tactical outcome of Israeli forces regaining control of the town. Militarily, Ofakim represented the deepest point of penetration achieved by Palestinian armed groups on October 7th. This demonstrated a high level of operational coordination and the capacity to strike targets deep inside Israeli territory. Even if the broader objective of a long-term hold was not achieved, conversely, the determined resistance from local police and armed civilians was critical in limiting the scale of the attack. Their actions prevented a more extensive massacre and bought crucial time for reinforcements to arrive, underscoring the impact of local initiative in a decentralized security crisis. Strategically, the battle exposed significant limitations in the initial response protocols of the Israeli defense establishment. The delayed arrival of the IDF to Ofakim and other embattled communities highlighted failures in intelligence assessment and border defense readiness that were later subjected to intense national scrutiny. The reliance on local, often outgunned, forces in the first hours of the attack became a central theme in the post-attack analysis of Israel's security posture. On a broader scale, the events in Ofakim were part of the wider October 7th attack, which resulted in over 1,200 Israeli casualties and the seizure of hundreds of hostages. This event served as the trigger for a massive Israeli military operation in the Gaza Strip, fundamentally altering the dynamics of the long-standing conflict. The battle underscored the tangible risks of border conflicts escalating into complex urban warfare and pointed to the critical need for improved coordination between national military forces and local security elements. The Battle of Ofakim serves as a stark reminder that in modern asymmetrical conflicts, the speed and effectiveness of a local response can be decisive in determining the outcome of localized engagements, while simultaneously exposing the systemic vulnerabilities of a nation's defense architecture.